kind of theme of first Muhammad messenger for us our 89-year journey here in America. We have a great coming Master Father Muhammad, his raising up for the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who laid the foundation of Islam in America like no other had done. And as a result of that, we were able to show our people exactly what we could be like once we turn back to Allah. So we're thankful to him because without him, the world would not know anything about Malcolm X. The world would not know anything about Muhammad Ali, other than the fact that he would be a great boxer. They would not know anything about Imam W.D. Muhammad. Allah be pleased. And of course, we would not know anything about the man that is still yet among us today, working tirelessly, spreading the message of salvation to our people, ultimate humanity. Speak of none other than the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. It's in their names I greet all of you, greeting words of peace, as we say once again in the original language of our Father, as I hear Imam say sometimes, not their language, it's our language of Arabic. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you all so much for being with us this afternoon, and once again, thank you so much for your patience with us. But we are very blessed and fortunate to once again have in the city of Baltimore with us our national imam and also resident imam of Mosque Maryam, Imam Sultan Rahman Muhammad. So let us give him a round of applause, and we're happy to have him. Of course, we want to welcome all of those that are watching us live right now from Facebook land and internet land. Let's give Facebookers a round of applause live from Mosque number 6. And I want to thank his son and aide, Brother Sadiq. Is with him, and it just shows you historically as Imam's father, Sultan, may Allah be pleased with him, was the confidant and aide of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, his grandfather. I see your son now by your side and assisting you. May Allah bless you. We call him S3. Sultan III. But we're here and we are blessed to now have a Hajj workshop, or intensive as we like to call them in Islamic circles, under the theme of Islamic science course. We laugh about it sometimes because we see Islamic science course, we get afraid. Like, wait a minute, I don't know if I should sign up for that. But then there's some of us that if we didn't put science on it, it wouldn't be big enough. So we kind of laugh about it that in that realm. But this is science, and this is a part of our faith that we must evolve and grow into, because it is one of the points of the practices that Allah has commanded through his prophet Muhammad, peace and prayers be upon him, that at least once in a lifetime, if afforded, that we strive to go to the place of the house that Abraham and Ishmael built and raised, and it stands today as a journey, as Imam talked about, and I allow him to get into that. I just want to lay a few notes out there historically. This coming December 24th will mark 60 years to the date that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1959 made Umrah. And this is something to behold, but it was in this month of November the 10th, 1959, that he left New York City to travel overseas to the Middle East and to parts of Africa, and as well as to enter into the holy precincts of Mecca to perform the Umrah. and he visited Syria, he visited Turkey and Pakistan, he visited the Sudan. We'll put some of those pictures up later. You've seen them, but you may not know that these are where they were. He visited Egypt. And so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, at a certain point during the Theology of Time lecture series, when he mentioned Mecca and Medina, he made it very clear that he was not speaking from a position of somebody that was not knowledgeable of that world, because he had been there. He had observed it. He had walked in it. And so he was very clear in his closing Savior's Day 74 address, which we played last night for the beautiful believers that came out for study group. We had a good time last night, chopping it up with video clips of the minister and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad surrounding Hajj and surrounding pilgrimage and surrounding the principles of Islam. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said in Savior's Day 74 that he had been to Mecca and Medina. And he said that he saw and he observed. And he said that these people are not into any foolishness. They not playing. He said, and then he pointed to those two, if you will, white Muslims that he had on the stage. One being Ali Baghdadi.
That's right.
And then Simi Abdul Khan. And he was said, they came here to see us, but they did not come to see if we were trying to be Muslims. They wanted to come and see whether or not we were Muslims at heart. So he said that basically I'm not just trying to clothe you. Many believe that he said closed. He was saying clothed. He said, I'm not just trying to clothe you in the garments of salvation, but I'm trying to clothe you in the principles of your religion, which Hajj is a part of that. So I'm saying that to say that we have a very good, strong foundation of Islam in America, and that we are just 11 years away from a centennial. So we're closer to 100 than we are 5. So, takbir. So I want to thank all of those that signed up and registered, and we pray to Allah. We put this packet together for you so that we could allow you to at least leave with something to look at and learn from. You'll see in your packet, if you haven't already taken a look, we put the Islamic calendar months in there, and the names, and inshallah we'll go over the names. And these are very important because, of course, we're familiar with the 9th month called Ramadan. Right? But we got to know Shaban and Shawwal, and we have to know Dhul al-Hijr, and because we're going to be talking about Hajj, but we should know them all so that we can become familiar with how our calendar works, our real calendar works. Though we may operate under the solar calendar. So that's in there, and we did a little word search so that you'll become familiar with words that we're going to go over, that you'll hear, and the places that are visited during the Hajj. They're in the word search. And this right here, I had Brother Imam in your packet. You see this?
Yes, sir.
I had Brother Imam scan this, because one of the things that, if you will, Brother Imam, in the history, the Savior wrote the Honorable Elijah Muhammad a letter one time, very early in the development, and he was basically telling him, be very careful trying to read books about Islam written by Christians. And he warned him to stay away from that, because when they wrote about us, they were really writing it from a negative standpoint, and it was he called it poison. It was poisonous. So he told him to stay away from it. So in our growth in Islam, we know that there are credible sources. And the most credible source there is in our Islam is the Holy Quran. Do you understand that? Yes. But if you go to an Islamic bookstore or Muslim convention, man, They got books on everything.
That's right.
But every book is not good for you. Or the book may be good, but you don't have a good enough foundation to understand it. So we have to screen things sometimes, because when you start reading books, you see things that you might take as authenticity from the prophet, peace and prayers be upon him, and it's not. And or it is the commentator giving their viewpoint, which may be good, but it's not necessarily so. So I had Imam screen this to make sure. And there are a couple points in it that we'll hit, but it's not major. It's just, don't you lose yourself when you read certain things and, oh, what? Huh? No, we'll clean it up. Y'all okay?
Yes, sir.
And of course, this beautiful article written by Imam back in 2012 on the occasion of Hajj. And though it is from 2012, the information, because he points out the actual date, and just going back to that time, Hajj was in October. So Hajj, it was the Hajj season, or Dhul Hijjah moves just like Ramadan. So these next few years is going to be very hot, very, very hot during Hajj. Matter of fact, the minister made Hajj in August of 1985, but he's made Umrah many times. But this article will give us a snapshot of those steps that all of us have prayed and made intentions to make at least once in a lifetime. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Y'all all right with that?
Yes, sir.
So what I'm going to do is turn this over to our brother, and I want to say of him, because he knows it's very genuine. We are brothers in Islam, and though we may be in what we call posts or duties and responsibilities as spiritual teachers on behalf of the Nation of Islam and Minister Farrakhan, the real title is brother. And I can tell you, in our journey together thus far, Allah has blessed us to increase in the love and unity of brotherhood, because without true brotherhood and sisterhood, we really don't have Islam at all.
That's right.
And if we do not stay on course to make sure that nothing drops a wedge, and don't allow Satan to drop a wedge in between the believers. That's why we say in the prayer service, all right, straighten your lines, don't allow no gaps. And in the nation, we would talk that when we lined up for drill, don't allow nothing in between them ranks. That was really just preparation for prayer. So, we're in an hour, though, where the enemy is attempting to drive a wedge in between the believers. Not just keep our people that are ignorant away from Islam, they're trying to drive the wedge of disunity between us, because if we fall apart, our people don't stand a chance. So I'm happy to see you all. Thank you so much for coming, and now I'm going to turn you into the capable hands of our national Imam, Imam Sultan Rahman Muhammad. Let us welcome him.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, we bear witness that there is no God but Allah, who intervened in our affairs in the person of Master Father Muhammad, and we further that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is his exalted Christ and Messiah, and we have a man in our midst, by the grace of Allah, that is continuing to prove the work of Master Father Muhammad and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in manifesting a man to us that is not only a warner, a teacher, a guide, but he is the representative of God in our midst. And we thank Allah for the opportunity and the blessing to be among the believers today to discuss a very important call that our dear minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, has made. The beautiful thing about this call and our minister, if we have been watching him, this is not a new call. This call really began in the late 70s, if I'm not mistaken, with our dear brother Akbar as well, student minister Akbar and the international representative Elijah Muhammad, and Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, February 1977. So the call began in February of 1977, which should point to us, or what we're pointing to in this, is that when we look at the Kaaba, which is a representation of a nation, the nation, we see the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan making a call to rebuild the house. So if we put in our minds this example of our minister rebuilding the house of God, we will begin to see the essence and beauty around the symbol or sign called Al-Kaaba and Mecca itself. This is important for us in that when we look at the beauty of the precincts, and a little background on this photo. This was a photo taken on Eid al-Fitr, on the celebration of Eid, closing the holy month of Ramadan. And there was an Eid party going on in the hotel room where we were blessed to be hosted by the King of Saudi Arabia, his representatives who hosted us and gave cake and gifts to our dear minister. And in this particular moment, our minister was so full. He was filled with tears of joy. And he was looking, you can see that beautiful view from the hotel room at the holy city there, specifically the Kaaba. This was the moment our minister renewed the desire for the believers to make the journey of 10,000 to return to the holy city of Mecca. And when he, in this moment, reflected on the desire to return, our brother Akbar was present. And not long before this also was the prayer call, the Fajr prayer call, the Ramadan prayer line, where the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan then actually made the public announcement to the believers, expressing his joy of being present and wanting to share the experience. So our minister has called for 10,000 to come and return to the holy city of Mecca. Yet we must look at it as the Holy Quran states, that when we travel to Mecca, when we make that journey, which is sometimes represented either as the fourth or fifth pillar of Islam, that Allah Most High says, take your provisions with you. And the most important provision Allah states is to take with you your duty to Allah, or taqwa, the preservation of our humanity. In the same verse, Allah then says, there will be no altercation, there will be no fighting, there will be no quarreling among those who are participating in the Hajj. There will be no immodest speech. These are the impediments of our character and manners. First, our manners that erode our character. The impediments in our mannerism begin to erode our character. So some of us go through life and it's, I just have a foul mouth. Get used to it, brother. Get used to it, sister. But what is that coming from us? But a reflection of a part of our character that needs to be reconstructed, rebuilt. Because we can communicate without offending. And we will find that when we communicate without offense, that we are able to build bonds beyond creed, class, color, and nationality. Because many of us, and I'll close this point on this, speak to each other across our diverse identities. Allah Most High, again, this house that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is building in each and every one of us, Baytullah. This house is called Baytullah. Please say Bayt.
Bayt.
Baytullah.
Baytullah.
Baytullah means the house of God. In this representation of our human form, Allah Most High has given us the potentials to reflect His attributes. Those attributes are talked about in the teachings of Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, as attributes that are enclosed and housed in the heart itself. There are verses in the Holy Quran that point to this reality as well. So when we look at the character of God, we see 99 attributes. Mercy, right? Another is the creator. Another is the destroyer. What part of us that is of the character of God will we present in the proper manner at the proper time? When we come together with our brothers and sisters from all around the planet, this last particular journey here with our minister, we went during the last 10 days of the holy month of Ramadan, which the count exceeded 6 million people, nearly 7 million people. Hajj itself usually is restricted to a smaller amount, roughly 3 million, now that the expansion of the holy precincts has begun to occur. I don't think you heard me. 6 million people in one space. Okay, one space. One of the reasons given is, why 6 million, nearly 7 during Ramadan, but during Hajj itself, 3. Again, the crowd control. Wow. So the government of Saudi Arabia, they limit how many are able to attend based on how many they feel other people can be safely managed in the journey. But the 6 to nearly 7 million that came during Ramadan this year was primarily due to, historically, those that are near Mecca or on that side of the hemisphere are all taking that time to come to the holy city. So you find everyone from all walk of life of Muslim communities coming together and actually retreating into the precincts. If you look, that building that surrounds the Kaaba, this entire space is called the Haram. Please say Haram.
Haram.
Now, haram means something that is sacred or that which has been forbidden.
Forbidden.
Now, in this world, the enemy has played with that word haram. Haram. It means what is prohibited. So, to have a better understanding of what the enemy has twisted, that is a prohibited space, meaning the household. So when we are in this space, we have specific manners, specific character that we must maintain regardless of our culture and background. So some of us don't like crowds. Some of us have different things that we desire or need day to day to help us along that fit our personalities. I've got a list myself. All right, and I want you to make your own list. What is it that I need? What are the things that I require individually? When we come together, those are the things that we begin to share. And we'll begin on this point. Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, said you can learn about someone's character in two ways. One is by traveling with them.
Wow.
Think about all those times you shared a hotel room or a car ride.
Okay.
On a car ride and how you got to know that person you were with. Traveling.
Traveling. Okay.
You get to learn the character of an individual. The other method in which we exchange character is, the Prophet pointed to, is business, trade. You find out real fast if somebody's a cheat in business. You find out real fast if they have a sense of what's called customer service in this world, but we call it dignity, we call it refinement. These are aspects of our mannerisms, as the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has stated, that good manners protect good character. I'm sorry, good morals protect good manners protect good morals. Thank you. Isn't it beautiful to be among the believers? This is like the Quran. If you recite something and you make a little mistake, we're all here to help each other. But look at the subtlety of the words. We have to, morals, all right? Good morals. When we begin to lose those points of our manners that erode our character and morals, that the ayah in the Quran that we mentioned discusses, no immodest speech, no fighting, no quarreling, right? Then we find ourselves unable to be with one another. We become repellent to each other. Our brotherhood and sisterhood becomes that more difficult to maintain. And again, you can look at traveling and business as something that engages you with someone over a protracted period of time. Yes, sir. Praise be to Allah. Why do we mention these two? Trade. You'll find yourself, and we'll inshallah show a few photos, after you've made your rites and journey, beginning to mingle among the people. So a trade really begins with the greeting. Assalamu alaikum. And if that person doesn't return the greeting, you feel what? Cheated in the exchange. Then you have the actual merchandising, which in Arabic is called tijara. Well, now you have been in Mecca for the time enough to complete your rites and rituals. Now you want to mingle among the people and bring back gifts to your families. Then there's an actual trade going on there. So there is in the Hajj every aspect of moments that will test these two particularities about each and every one of us. How do we do business? How do we interact with one another? And our minister does not want us to be caught up in the how-tos as much as he wants us to understand the whys. Why are we doing this? What does it mean? What is the significance? So inshallah, we're going to step through as quickly as we can the how-tos. But as we move through, we will address as many of the whys, why we do this or that, as we move along as well. All right, are you ready?
Yes,
You think a mini journey?
Yes,
So what we're going to do here is actually take some of the steps that we made in our journey with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at the end of May, beginning of June of the holy month of Ramadan, last 10 days of 2019, inshallah. All right, first is we want you to be aware of a website that has been established. The website is noihajj.com. noihajj.com. Here you sign up. This is to make your intention. Not necessarily to, okay, this is where I get my ticket, this is the information, no. This is registering your name, signing up, and saying, I intend or desire to make the Hajj or Umrah 10,000 strong with our minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Here we will have updates because this is going to be and is and has already become a process. It's in motion. It began with our journey there with the minister in Ramadan, and we will have consistent engagement until the date of departure for us. And all of those updates as we move along will be posted. Availability of hotels. Now, when we talk on this, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan does not want us all randomly just buying tickets ourselves and planning on going. Or you will miss the security of being with your family. We are family. So when we go together, we go together. He desires to charter planes. He desires for each and every one of our FOI to secure our sisters. We are the guardians of one another. And when this is displayed in the old world of Islam, you will see something that shows and demonstrates that Kaaba, that nation that has been risen in the West. And with I believe we had about 17 or so that went on the delegation with our minister. Just that smaller number of a delegation was very impactful wherever we went. Particularly the minister is with you, and he's world known, and he's being escorted by officials of the government, so people want to know who is that. So when they find out, they follow him around, and they want to know more about who we are and where we come from. Praise be to Allah. So as soon as you can, just sign up with your email. We'll be able to keep you updated with the information that will give us what we need as it relates to all of the fine points. Family who are traveling together, please sign up as a unit for your family, but in the notation, make sure you enumerate or state how many would be traveling in your family. So sign up. At the same site, we will be offering courses. Inshallah, this may be as well as our plenary session at Savior's Day coming 2020 will be also posted here as resources to go back to and to review. I had an opportunity to speak to the believers at believers meeting, our business meeting, and we did a presentation on the desire of our minister to take
10,000 to Hajj. That presentation was giving us points, bullet points of the significance of Hajj and what it's about, but it was rooted in prayer. Prayer. How to make the salah, the daily prayer. Because while we're there, the 5 daily prayers are going consistently. And when you're in Mecca, your prayers have the value of 100,000 prayers. When you're in Medina, your prayers have the value of 10,000 prayers. And I asked the minister, I said, you know, the hadith, dear minister, that speaks of the value of prayer in these exponential numbers in Mecca and Medina at the mosque itself, or mosques themselves. What would you have to say about that as a blessing? He said, well, I think it's kind of simple. He said, how many prayers have you missed? How many prayers have we missed? He said, I think Allah has given us a chance to make up all of those prayers that we may have missed. So one thing is that we will also be in beautiful, strong accommodations, meaning hotels, but this is not a vacation. So you don't want to be like in your hotel with the remote watching prayer of everyone making prayer down at the Kaaba when it's 2 blocks away. And it's very easy to do that because if we're not careful, one, we fall into our ways. Oh man, I don't like crowds. Well, I can just drop the prayer rug right here. The adhan, the call to prayer, comes from a speaker in each room. In your room, like this little vent right here. Yeah, you can control the volume with a little knob, but you have the prayer being called right there in your room. When you hear that prayer being called, you'll see, or the adhan being called, you'll see tens of thousands of believers leaving the hotels. Now, I'll move on this point. Is when they leave the hotels, we entered one of the hotels, I was like, man, this is a strange hotel, the way it was built when we arrived in Medina. There were so many elevators, I didn't understand where we were, and you can get disoriented. When the prayer called, I was aware, okay, everybody's leaving the hotel at the same time. Now I understand why there's 20 elevators in this hotel. So do know that once that call is made, that you'll also hit a rush of people right there in your hotel room. So you want to make sure, in your hotel itself, so you want to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to get to the mosque, either the mosque of Muhammad, which is called Masjid al-Nabawi, the mosque of the Prophet, or the sanctuary, or the Haram, where the Kaaba is. Or else, if you're not leaving in time enough, you'll find yourself maybe praying in front of Kentucky Fried Chicken. Or on the block next to a tea shop. And yes, I did say Kentucky Fried Chicken. There's Kentucky Fried Chicken there, there's all that we have, there's the Starbucks, all of these amenities is what I'm touching on briefly before we move on, to let you know that when we go, we're not going to be in any place that is unsafe, unclean. We are going to be in spaces that, by the grace of Allah, are going to be to the standards that we are used to having as our because we, as coming from America, we're spoiled. There are many that are okay going and literally not far from pitching tents and sleeping in that manner. So we're not used to that. So inshallah, we're making these key statements just to make sure you know that the hotels will be updated for us here, accommodations, targeted dates of travel. We mentioned numbers of family members. All of the data that you will need to secure your passport if you do not have one. We'll have a manual available at Savior's Day, inshallah, as well, that we'll point out here, that will help us step through everything that we need to guide us through the process. But your home base will be noihajj.com, and of course noi.org for updates. The sign up, as we mentioned, is straightforward and simple. Name, information, email. Now we begin. Allah says in the Holy Quran, certainly the first house appointed for men is the one at Mecca or Mecca, blessed and a guidance for the nations. In it are clear, please say it with me, signs. It is the place of Abraham, and whoever enters it is safe. And pilgrimage to the house is a duty which men or people owe to Allah. Whoever can find a way to it. So there's a little caveat, all right? And whoever disbelieves, surely Allah is above need of the worlds. Whoever can find a way to it. The other aspect of the journey is the cost. There is a monetary cost that we have to put forth for ourselves or our family that is, as Allah is saying, part of an expiation or a way that if we are unable to afford making Hajj, it's not an obligation. It's not held against you, right? And if we were here for Jumu'ah on Friday, yesterday, we told you get the value of a Hajj going to Jumu'ah under certain circumstances, right? So we get in different activities of our principles of faith the reward and blessing of things like the Hajj, making the Hajj through different activities. And if we look at the way we come together for the 5 daily prayers, the Hajj itself is represented in facing the Kaaba, facing the Qibla. Every day when we make our prayer, we face the Qibla, which is in the holy city of Mecca. So we want to begin to save. This is also going to be available on the website, tools of how we can begin to save for the journey itself. The journey generally is between $5,000 to $7,000 per person. Now, don't let the numbers scare you right now. You know, $5,000 to $7,000. It's a nice amount, but we are going 10,000. So our goal is to bring these prices as low as we possibly can, you know, with the expectation that, you know, hey, we're going to need this whole hotel, brother, sister. We're going to need this whole, mentioned chartering planes. So all of the expenses are going to be reduced to the minimum. But Allah is going to bless us, and I see it. I see it with what we give. It will be exponentially of value for what we receive in accommodations, in how we are handled by the government, and all of the things that really sometimes are difficulties in our travel. One of the other points, as we talk about some of the more logistical aspects, is the issue of inoculations. Inoculations when you travel. Yes. So we don't want, okay, these are the 10,000 inoculations for the Nation of Islam members right here. No. So we did not, as guests of the king, have any issue with taking inoculations. We did not. So this is another important reason you want to stay with your family. Because if you go outside of the family, you may end up having to take inoculations for the travel itself. Okay? So closing on those basics of, and we'll have question and answer to open up more about this simplistic, basic, logistic kind of things a little later, but I wanted to keep that around the website area of this presentation so you know that that's where you'll find out about inoculations, accommodations, prices, updates, and travel tools, and so forth. Okay. And that it is a obligation on the believer if we can afford it. So arrival in Medina. Okay, I thought you said we were going to Mecca. What we do, there's types. Number one. Please say Umrah. Umrah. As you heard our brother Minister Carlos mention, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made Umrah, right? Now, Umrah is considered, or you'll see the language in this handout, as a lesser Hajj. I don't particularly like the language lesser. It's just smaller. You don't have as many rites and rituals to perform in the Umrah as you do in the Hajj itself. Yet the benefit and reward of them are very, very near equal. All right. So you have Umrah. And when we made Umrah for the last 10 days of the holy month of Ramadan, and if we make what is called Hajj Tamatu, there's different types of Hajj, all right? We're not going to get too detailed. They're in the packet, but there's different types of Hajj, and one of the types of Hajj does lead you through Medina, all right? And this is the one that we're looking at as the type of Hajj that we will take if it is a Hajj. Depending on planning, we may make a straightforward Umrah, and you'll see what we mean by that when we're talking about 10,000 moving from different locations. The experience, trust me, is not diminished at all when you're talking about the Umrah versus the Hajj itself. Trust me, it is not. But I do want us to know that there are different methods of making the journey to Mecca. Our method will be coming through Medina. So when we have all our tickets, when we've made sure we have all that we need as far as passports, when we make sure we have, someone watching the house, and that the rent is paid or the mortgage is paid plus, right? Because we don't want to be there in distress over what's going on at home or hurting ourselves to go to the journey, all right? So it's for those who can afford it. And we are a family, again. So there will be ways, inshallah, for us to make sure that whoever desires, inshallah, will have the opportunity to go. So coming into Medina, there's our Supreme Captain.
There you go.
Student Supreme Captain Mustafa Farrakhan, walking in the precincts of Masjid al-Nabawi. We arrived in Medina first, shortly after, right at Fajr prayer time. And not long after that, we went to the precincts of the Prophet, peace be upon him, Masjid al-Nabawi. Please say Masjid al-Nabawi. It means, again, the mosque of the Prophet. You see our minister right there as well, being directed, and our brother Khalid. And we know all of the E-team that went over and many of the laborers and council members that went over with our minister came back new people with new names. New names. So we left Brother Donald in Mecca, and he came back Brother Khalid. And we have Brother Wazir. Brother Wazir came. We left Brother Donald, and Wazir came back. Okay. Then We left Brother D9 and Daryl and Brother Khalil came back. And we had our sister Captain Naima, who came back, but she went over as Sister Sandy. What are we pointing to? Is that our minister, when he was giving these names, he said, a name is not what is earned, a name is who you are. It's beautiful. So on the journey, I was blessed, and those who were present would see the minister just watching individuals that were with him on the delegation. And what do we say? When you travel with someone, you learn. He began to pull me to the side here and there and ask about Arabic names from the Holy Quran and their meanings, and then he began to name. So praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. We'll see if our minister names some of us when we come back, inshallah, with the 10,000. So when we go into Medina, you'll see these tents. If you look at those above, those are actually inverted tents that allow overflow from the main mosque. This is not the main mosque itself. This is the entry of Masjid al-Nabawi. In Medina tul Munawwara. Medina, please say Medina, which literally means city. Medina tul Munawwara. Munawwara. It means the city of light. The city of light. And short, Medina, which just literally means the city. And this is where the nation of Islam was established by Prophet Muhammad 1400 years ago there in the holy city of Medina. There is another photo of the two Minara, there's more than that. There's several. There's 4 in this shot, but there's at least, I believe, 6 minarets. So these steeples, that's where the churches got it from, right? No, really. This structure, this architecture, if you do your history and study, you'll find that the steeples of churches comes from the design of the minarets. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in the late 50s, began to put before the believers a photo of the mosque that we desired, and it had 4 minarets in it as well, inshallah. And historically, they were used for the mu'adhin, or the one who calls the prayer, to climb to the top and call out, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, to call the prayer, the adhan. And that way they could reach the surroundings, that's right, the surrounding areas by projecting their voices. The picture at night, as we then began, this Brother Ishmael, we were moving in to make Tarawih prayer. Please say Ta-Ra-Wih. This is the night prayer during the holy month of Ramadan that follows the Isha, Salatul Isha. And there we were doing about 23 or so raka'at in the witr and tahajjud. And trust me, please, the number one thing that there it is. There it is. Who went off over there? Just raise your hand. Okay. Your prayer alarm went off. When that goes, you're going to hear it all day. All right? And what we want to do is be very comfortable in our prayer. You will see differences among the people that are praying there, but there is a standard. When I say you see differences in Islam, there really is no such thing as orthodoxy. There's no such thing as Orthodox Islam. All the Sunnis are like that, and all the Shiite are like that. It's really not like that at all. Islam is not a religion. It's not an organized white man's religion with some kind of orthodoxy that is established in this place or that place, right? What it is a demonstration of the mastery of the science of all things. Wow. Allahu Akbar. So it has no beginning, it has no end. So we cannot say Muhammad established Islam in the city of Medina when we go there, although some will say that because they get used to saying that as Muslims that are part of the broader Islamic world. I have thoughts and reasonings that I think they do that because then it can be said that Islam began in Arabia, right? But we know that Islam has no beginning nor end. And the Quran attests to that, and that is our belief. So praise be to Allah. Let us get used to our consistent mode of prayer and being conscious of prayer. And you'll find yourself falling into a rhythm of prayer. And after each of the 5 daily prayers in the Haramain, in the 2 holy mosques, you will find that there is a janazah prayer that is done right after the principal salah that is in. So if you have Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, the morning, noon, afternoon, sunset, and night prayer, between each one of them, after each one of them, there is a janazah prayer that is given to pray for all of the Muslims that on that journey may have passed away, or those who are even absent that you are praying for that have already passed away, right? So it's a janazah. Please say janazah. So many of us have been to a janazah. We've seen janazah prayers, but we have to get used to doing them on our own now instead of just following in a congregation. Although we will be following in a congregation with the salah or prayer that is being led by the imams of Medina and Mecca. So let's get used to all of the different kinds of prayer and the rules of prayer. And inshallah, we'll go into more detail on that. Closing that point, if you want to deepen your knowledge of prayer in the original language of Arabic and in English, please visit noi.org/prayer. noi.org/prayer. And it'll take you to a full course of different levels of how to make your prayer. It begins in English and ends in Arabic and demonstrations and everything. Praise be to Allah. All right. Okay, so this was that evening. You saw Brother Ishmael, ourselves, we were going out to make Tarawih, and you can see the crowds. We're on our way walking into the main gates of Medina, to the Munawwara, the Masjid of the Prophet. Okay, so that was a quick snapshot from all the way up. If you don't like crowds, start the breathing techniques now. Begin, to get into that safe space, whatever we call it. And honestly, prayer does that for you. It does that for us. A meditation. Prayer is a combination of meditation, right? It is a combination of serenity, and it is also part of a body language that allows us to bring a series of revelatory words from Allah into physical representation. So it's a mind, body, heart experience, all right? So in the prayer, pray for yourself so that you are able to then, and I say this actually from an experience that I'm trying to articulate right now, is that when you are in prayer, it's called dhikr. It really is called dhikr, or remembrance of Allah. It's a form of remembrance that is accompanied by body language in the structure of the prayer itself. But when you, in prayer, you have recitations that you've memorized and you recite repetitively over and over and over again. Many times, you don't have to be in Salah itself, but you find short prayers or meditative phrases. Please say Bismillah. Bismillah. It means in the name of Allah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. So Bismillah means in the name of Allah. Alhamdulillah means praise be to Allah. Allahu Akbar. God is the greatest. And last one, please say La ilaha illallah. Bismillah. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Wa la ilaha illallah. Perfect. If you keep reciting these over and over, honestly, these are the recitations for most of our activities within the Hajj or Umrah itself, including the parts of the Salah or prayer that we may not have yet memorized by heart. If you take those phrases in the middle of a crowd like this and you start feeling, just start. Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, wa la ilaha illallah. And we know la ilaha illallah means that there is no God but Allah. What a beautiful series of recitations that we can do over and over in a style of chanting that helps to bring you into a space, all right, that is all your own and directly connected with Rabbil Alameen, the Lord of all the worlds, the evolver of all the worlds. Praise be to Allah. All right, so that was a short snapshot of the crowd just entering into the precinct. So the next day, we were preparing. We got our rest. That was all in one day. Medina, we came in. we made Fajr prayer. Then we made Jum'ah prayer. And then the evening, we had the break fast because it was Ramadan, meaning we had iftar. And then we rested up the next day to be able to get ready to visit some of the other sites in Medina. The first site we visited, you see here, is called Masjid. Please say Quba. Please say Quba. This was actually the first mosque built on the way into Medina. So this is actually the first mosque built, or where Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, actually prayed for the first time. So this is marked by his first prayer migrating from Mecca to Medina. It's called Masjid Quba. We had a beautiful opportunity to visit that masjid as well, and inshallah will be on our retracing the steps of the journey. So from Mecca to Medina. So that day after we visited Quba, we then began to prepare for the journey to Mecca. So that means we then had to begin to really understand what it was we were about to do. The first thing you want to do, and you will be able to do it in your room, is begin to place yourself in ihram. Please say ihram. Ihram. If you hear the word haram, which refers to the mosque, and you hear the word ihram, you hear a similarity. Ihram means to make yourself what? Sacred. So it comes through a series of activities. For the men and the women, there are differences. The men put on their ihram, which consists of 2 white unsewn cloths. It's very important, unsewn cloths. We will be able to help and support how and where we get our ihram garments from. It's basically 2 large materials that are like cotton, almost like a towel, cotton towel, that wrap around the body. One of the pieces, we don't have to learn all the details of the names of each piece and so forth. One of the pieces is wrapped around the midriff, all right, around this area for the men. You wrap it around and you kind of roll it over. We'll go through these, and you make sure you have a belt. Because there's nothing under that ihram. Make sure you have that belt. So we'll make sure all these materials are available, all right? And there's, of course, before you make the ihram, you take a shower, you make wudu, right? And then the second piece of cloth is wrapped around the shoulders, all right? And your right arm is left out, just as shown here, until you reach a certain point in your Umrah or Hajj. So the procedure for ihram of purification before we place the garment is to take a bath, as we mentioned, to make the intention of ihram or make wudu, the ablution, and the internal purity. All right, again, significance. We can clean our external up as much as we can, as Brother Carlos mentioned earlier. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad stated, you know, that the Muslims from across the seas, they see us in our garment, but they want to know, you know, what is the heart like? What is the character? We see you look like Muslims, but we want to make sure that our Hajj and Umrah is for the proper intent. Keep before us all the time that this is to fulfill our obligation to Allah God, and to connect and worship Allah in a way that we can see the purification of self and deepen our connection. Oh Allah, I sincerely repent for my sins and seek your forgiveness. Ihram, it literally means to make something forbidden or sacred. When a Hajj is pronounced, this intention is called a niyyah. I'm not gonna read verbatim. The niyyah is your intention. Oh Allah, I intend to make my Umrah, or I intend to make my Hajj. Then we begin to put on the ihram garment after the spiritual cleansing and the physical cleansing, and we begin the talbiyah. Please say talbiyah. Talbiyah. So if someone wears these 2 sheets or the ihram and does not declare his intention or utter the talbiyah, he does not become a muhrim. Please say muhrim. One who has made themselves sacred. Does that make sense? Yeah. So those 2 things are very important. Once you finish your full-bodied ihram and you have cleansed yourself both spiritually and physically, you then begin to recite your talbiyah, and we're about to go over that. Yes, and then you follow it with nafil, or what's considered a non-obligatory prayer. The nafil are 2 rak'ahs, 2 cycles of prayer. And this is going back to the point. There's rak'ahs for almost everything. There's the janazah, there's the eids, there's the nafil or the sunnah prayers. There's, of course, the rak'ahs for the daily prayers. But in this scenario, once you finish your ihram, you make your intention, then you make 2 rak'atain, 2 cycles of prayer, and you begin your talbiyah. Your talbiyah is the recitation that we're about to go over of labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Here we go. Okay, so we can, these are some of the details of the preparation for ihram. All right. And this will be made available, of course, on noihajj.com. Okay, one of the points here is ordinary shoes can be worn as long as they don't have any thread in them. So like sandals, we basically wore sandals. The type you would wear in a gym, you know, just slip-ons that are plastic sandals. They're kind of hard to keep on. And I'll share something later about that. They're a little hard to keep on. So sometimes you'll just, you know, go barefoot. It's okay when you're in the haram, but when you leave out of that area, it becomes an issue. So you want to make sure you have strong, sturdy footwear that do not have stitches in them and will help guide and give resources to how and where we can find those. But they're basically flip-flops that you can wear. The better ones would be ones that can attach to the ankle so that they don't fall off. Okay. All right, our sisters for ihram is different. And it's basically the same modest wear that we have. The same goes for the physical preparation and purification. This we'll see for our sisters that wear the ihram. Our sister captain is going to go over this in detail in the classes for the sisters. And we will do the same in the FOI class for the ihram. And I say in detail from our sister captain is because wearing this as well as representing our, what we would call what we wear, our sisters are to wear the regular garment. Right. So under that, our sister captain, Naima, and I'll show it to you, she had the hijab in this manner, and under that was the headpiece. All right, and it made it easier once we finished the umrah to actually then go about our business. Because once you're finished, you can take this ihram off and then go back to the precincts and begin to pray again. But this, inshallah, our sister captain will go over in detail. But there's not much difference in preparation other than the actual clothing themselves. And you can choose, the most recommended is the white garment, okay? And what goes over it, which is an abaya, is like in a draped fashion over the headpiece. Okay, praise be to Allah. So this is us coming into Mecca. We just actually at this point had just finished making the Umrah, but this is, as you can see, our sister Amina, our minister's secretary and council member. If you see her ihram compared to our brothers. Now look what's different in this picture that we mentioned earlier, just to make sure we're all listening. What's different? Thank you, very good. The right arms are covered now. That's why I wanted to make sure you knew that this was after we completed.
Except for one.
Except for one brother, yeah. Oh, that brother, yeah. He was just bulging out of his. I think he got some strong muscles up there. Brother Khalid. Right, yeah, there's Brother Ishmael, of course our minister, and who was formerly Brother Melvin, now our Brother Sadiq. And of course, Assistant Supreme, formerly Brother Anthony, now Brother Aziz, Abdul Aziz. Praise be to Allah. Okay, talbiya. Talbiya. Please repeat after me. Labaik. Labaik. Allah. Labaik. Labaik Allah. Labaik Allahumma. Labaik. Labaik Allah. Labaik Allahumma. Labaik Allahumma labaik. Okay, let's practice it 3 times. Labaik Allahumma labaik. 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 Labaika. Labaika. La sharika. La sharika. Labaika. Labaika. La sharika. La sharika. Laka labaik. Laka labaik. Labaika. Labaika. La sharika. La sharika. Laka labaik. Laka labaik. This is that first phrase is the most repeated often over and over and over again, and it ends with the second part. You can read along with the transliteration under the Arabic. All right, so we're on labaik Allahumma labaik, labaika la sharika laka labaik. Now here, innal, 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 hamda, innal hamda, wa ni'mata, wa ni'mata, innal hamda, wa ni'mata, laka wal mulk, laka wal mulk, laka wal mulk, la sharika lak, la sharika lak. Praise be to Allah. This phrase, once we are in our caravan, now leaving Medina, headed to Mecca, we repeat this over and over again. Don't engage in lightweight chatter. Don't, there's not much to see on that road anyway. It's a straight shot desert. There's a couple rest stops and so forth. But this is where you really, really begin to hone in your intention of why you're present, why you are actually there, and what you are to do. And this beautiful, beautiful prayer, let's put it to memory as one of the first things that we do in our preparation for our journey, because this is one of the most important, oft recited recitations and prayers of the journey. Labaik Allahumma labaik. Labaik Allahumma labaik. Labaik la sharika laka labaik. Labaik la sharika laka labaik. Innal hamda. Innal hamda. Wa ni'mata. Wa ni'mata. Laka wal mulk. Laka wal mulk. La sharika lak. La sharika lak. And when we are all reciting this together, oh my goodness, you begin to feel the ocean of your representation, right? So you're one drop in the ocean, reciting this with a sea of people. And it's like the voices on the outside become the voices, or the voice on the inside. It's a very beautiful experience. So the talbiyah is a prayer as well as an assertion of the pilgrim's conviction that he intends or she intends to perform Hajj or Umrah for Allah and His glory alone. The pilgrim starts the recital upon changing into the Ihram and continues to recite it frequently throughout Hajj or the Umrah. Male pilgrims recite the talbiyah loudly, whereas female pilgrims are required to recite it in a low voice. In a low voice. Okay? Any question thus far? Okay. Praise be to Allah. Oh, thank you, sir. Very good. Thank you, sir. Aiding his father. Please say, here I am.
Here I am.
Here I am.
Here I am.
At thy service, O Lord.
At thy service, O
Here,
Lord.
here I am.
Here I am.
So you're repeating, I'm here. I'm here. I'm answering the call. Then next, here I am.
Here I am.
At thy service.
At thy service.
And thou
And thou
has no partner.
has no partner.
Thine alone
Thine alone
is all praise
is all praise
and all bounty.
and all bounty.
And thine alone
And thine alone
is the sovereignty.
is the sovereignty.
Thou hast no partner.
Thou hast no partners.
Now, I like modern English, even though this is beautiful. You have no partner. So I'm just saying that when we memorize this in English, it's okay to take out the hast, and the thou and all of that. So here I am at your service, O Allah. Here I am at your service. And you have no partners. Yours alone is all praise and all bounty. And yours alone is the sovereignty. You have a partner. Over and over and over again. Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Thank you for that. Because we want to know the feeling, right, of the recitations in Arabic, but we also want to know what they mean. So we're not parroting, okay? But once you are reciting and understand the meaning, here's a couple just quick points. Please say labaik.
Labaik.
I'm here.
I'm here.
Labaik.
Labaik.
All right? So that's one key word that will help us, all right, in the recitation. Please say la sharika lak.
La sharika lak.
You have no partner.
You have no partner.
So we have some of those that are in the broader world of Islam that want to critique us as they critique each other. Please don't take it personal, because as they're pointing fingers at us, they're pointing fingers at other people. Shirk.
Shirk.
Please say shirk.
Shirk.
So, you say, I shirked off of my regimen, right? Shirk means, in Arabic, to make associations with Allah God. And that's shirk. So people who do not understand us and our teaching will sometimes accuse us of that, of shirk. La sharika lak. Allah has no partners. We're very clear on that. If they're not, they have to figure it out, and we'll talk to them at another time. Okay. So la sharika lak, labaik Allahumma labaik. Excellent. And one word here that will also help is al-mulk. Please say mulk.
Mulk.
This is one of the names of Allah, Malik al-Mulk, or the king of the dominion. So the dominion or sovereignty is mulk. Okay, and we'll continue in other presentations to practice this over and over again until we not only can recite it, but also understand key words that will help us to retain the meaning. Okay, so now that we have traveled to the city of Mecca, right? We now are, and if you see these roadways, they have it now. If this photo that you see, this 3D rendering that you see, does not include all of the buildings that have popped up over the last 15 or so years, purposefully to focus in on the sacred sites. So we're going to play shortly this brief clip. So each door entering takes you to the Kaaba. All of this that you're seeing is the sanctuary, not the actual Kaaba. This is all called the Haram. In the center is the Kaaba. Please say Kaaba. There are 4 corners to the cube, which Kaaba means cube. There's the Syrian corner, the Yemeni corner, the black stone corner. Now, this is of course showing it empty on all 3 levels or 4 levels. It is completely filled with people. That is the top level. And this is again a 3D rendering of the Haram, the sanctuary itself. And again, now you'll see hotels all around it popped up. And the government of Saudi Arabia has and continues now to spend billions of dollars in the expansion of that area, so more pilgrims during Hajj can perform than ever before. This is why the number is growing from 1 million, 2 million, now 3 for the Hajj, inshallah. Okay, for Hajj, we have this is not meant necessarily for you to read right here because I know the writing is kind of small, but this is in the Hajj guide that's provided at noihajj.com and will inshallah be distributed either digitally, Savior's Day, inshallah. We may have a first print, we'll see, inshallah, but either way it will be made available. If you look during the Hajj season, you're not only going to Mecca, which is at the far left, right? You are moving about to different areas or small cities that are actually not even occupied or lived in outside of the Hajj pilgrimage itself. So you see Mina, please say Mina. Mina. You see the kind of purple, pink flag, okay, from blue, from Mecca, right? You see Mina there. Can you imagine 3 million people at the same time on the same day trying to make it there? All right, and a few miles away after Mina, you have Muzdalifa. Please say Muzdalifa. Muzdalifa. This is a big area where you don't stop long, but you pick up your stones for the stoning of the Jamrat. And there's a number of stones you use from this, and then you move on. Please say Arafah. Arafah. This is actually where you end up, all right? Where you end up as the close of the Hajj itself, you're making dua and praying Salatul Asr there in that location, Arafah. And then if we look over here, you see those white stones and near that red flag? Those are called the Jamrat. Please say Jamrat. Now the Jamrat are the white stones that are representative of Satan. So that's when you're stoning with the stones you've picked up at Muzdalifa, you're stoning those white pillars, all right? And it is white, all right? And you're stoning it. And the minister, inshallah, will see what he has said about it. He was talking about how he was stoning at that particular part of the Hajj, and he would say, Allahu Akbar. So with each stone you throw, you say, Allahu Akbar, Allah is the greatest. And he said at a certain point, he saw people start looking over at him. You know, like, this brother here is trying to take this devil down. Allahu Akbar. So our minister's voice was piercing through those tens of thousands, stoning the Jamrat. Praise be to Allah. So he has gone before us, making friends and paving the way. So this is, inshallah, going to be a very, very important step for us, because we're not only retracing our minister's steps, we're not only retracing the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's steps, we're also retracing the steps of Master Farooq. This is where he was born. This is where he was born. So we know he has made this, these rites. We know this. And we can go further back 1,400 years ago and know that this is the place where Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, also purified the rites. I'm going to say this really quickly, because we must know the history of Hajj. It didn't start with Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him. Just like we said, Islam didn't start with him. The Hajj didn't start with him. But it became corrupted from when Abraham rose the foundation with his son Ishmael. It became corrupted and part of they actually referred to it as the temple of the gods in a way. They had more than 360 idols inside of the Kaaba. And people would migrate, the polytheists would migrate, those who worshiped various idols based on their tribal affiliation would migrate, and they would actually make this tawaf encircling the Kaaba without clothes. And there were paganistic activities that were along the same ways, but Muhammad, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, purified them. So when he made his Hajj, he made the declaration, this is the last time, and this is the last time you pagans are going to be able to make this Hajj like this. So he outlawed any of those things that were not congruent or in line with the worship or the original purpose of establishing this house for the worship of one God. And he then, of course, we know the history, began to destroy the idols that are inside or were inside of it. Praise be to Allah. So does this give us an idea of where the Jamrat are? Oh, here. Jabal al-Rahma, the mountain of mercy. If we see that also right next to the red flag, that is where the Quran began to be revealed. Jabal al-Nur or Jabal al-Rahma, all right? And that is a site, inshallah, that we can see as well. And a quick poll before we move forward. Who had a chance to go to the holy city of Mecca on Facebook with us? Okay, because I did the best I could. Please raise one more time. Okay, praise be to Allah. I lost my voice, and Brother Saad was with me, formerly Brother Burvey. But when we got the okay, go ahead, brother, you can Facebook. We were there. You'll see pictures of when those who were present went up to Jabal al-Nur, the mountain of light, and went through the full tour of the Haram, of that precinct that we saw with our minister. So if you haven't seen it, I would say go back and take a look at it again. And if there's any questions that come up about what you're seeing in the video as well from Facebook, please feel free to inbox or send email to myself or inbox that page, Facebook page, inshallah. So I'm glad, praise be to Allah, many of us did have a chance to get a view. So we saw how high some of these doors are, and just the majesty of the space itself. Praise be to Allah. All right. So now, Umrah. Now we focus in on Umrah here because there's a large potential that this is what we're going to be doing. Because as we mentioned, going to those other sites back and forth with a large group, particularly, we were talking about in the millions that the government of Saudi Arabia has to manage. Now we're talking about 10,000 of our own nation that we have to manage between each site. this is part of the preparatory work that's being done now in the decision on whether or not to make Umrah or Hajj itself. Okay, so know that the preparation, the council, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Executive Council are going over all the details and how it will best serve the believers. But the Umrah, you don't have to go to all of the various sites we've mentioned with the Jamrat, the stoning, Arafah. You don't have to go to Muzdalifah, but these are the main sites that we go to. First, the Kaaba, right? We make tawaf. Please say tawaf. It's one of our words here on the study of vocabulary. Tawaf means to circle the Kaaba. We do that 7 times, beginning at the black stone. If you look, you'll see a blue line that says number 2. So you enter number, and you, if you can imagine that full outer perimeter that we saw in the 3D demonstration, when you enter the sanctuary, once you hit that line, there's a black line, and we'll show more of that in a moment, that shows you where the black stone is. You begin your tawaf around at that point 7 times. Now, do you see the, I don't have my pointer with me, but if you see right next to the Kaaba, you see a little golden dome that's kind of standing by itself. That is called maqam. Please say maqam. Maqam al-Ibrahim. So the station of Abraham. So after we finish making 7 circuits around the Kaaba, we then make 2 cycles of prayer at Maqam al-Ibrahim, the station of Abraham. And in that case, in that structure, is a stone that is reported to be the stone that Abraham stood upon as he received the bricks for the building of the Kaaba from his son Ismail. So you see literally footprint right there in this stone. Allah knows best if this is the original stone or not, but that's what it represents. The station or place of Abraham. Then, number 3, after you have made tawaf and made your 2 cycles of prayer or steps of prayer, we then go to make sa'i. Please say sa'i. And this is the running between Mount Safa and Mount Marwa. Okay, so you see over here on the far corner, Marwa? All right. We go back and forth between these 2 areas 7 times. 7 times. So 4th once, back twice, back again, 3rd. So not 1, you know what I'm saying? So it's 1 each way. So it's not both ways, if you understand what I'm saying, right? So 1 time that way, 1 time the other way, 1 time, until we reach 7. And there are short prayers or dua that we make right at that point. And if you see these purple, blue, and green, all right, those are the short dua or supplications that we make. And we have guides through everything. So any of the recitations that we make when we're circling the Kaaba, or that we make when we're moving back and forth between Safa and Marwa, there will be guides to help us to recall those recitations. And again, what is the recitation? And when in doubt, we say, Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, wa la ilaha illallah. Just keep that going. Now, the talbiyah, just as an asterisk point, Labaik Allahumma labaik. Once we see the Kaaba, once we see it, we stop reciting that because you're there now. You don't have to keep saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Now I'm here. Okay. Now you have recitations that you make around when you're circling. Then you have recitations at the top of each mount. Okay. Sa'i. And then at the far end, okay, after you finish sa'i and you see something that says trimming hair or shaving hair. This is hard for some of us, okay? Easy for me, I could just shave it real quick. All right. As a matter of fact, when I was done, I was like, "Hey, I don't have any hair to shave." He said, "Just go through the motion, right? Just touch it up." Our sisters, this number one, this is something that is for sisters. If you cut not even a fingertip, it's permissible. That's all you need is to cut a fingertip. Brothers, just fade it up a little bit. You don't have to necessarily go all the way bald, okay? But you will see a line of people and barbers right there getting their heads literally shaved fully right then and there. You don't have to do it there. As a matter of fact, I suggest not to. We suggest not to because when you're cutting hair like this, sometimes they're using the same clippers on everyone. And you end up with the ringworm, all right? So go back. It's okay to go back to your room and shave. Okay, how are we on time?
No, you good.
Okay, praise be to Allah. All right, so those are the 4 major parts of Umrah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tawaf, Sa'i, and we have, after the Sa'i, we have the shaving. Okay? Any question? Okay, praise be to Allah. All right, so here was when, praise be to Allah, we were making tawaf. Oh, please, I'll be quiet and let's just take a quick listen.
Wear the 2 pieces of cloth for men, and women wear normal clothes. Second, make the intention of performing Umrah before miqat. By doing this, you will come in the state of ihram. Third, entering Masjid al-Haram. Whilst reciting Allahumma aftah li abwab rahmataka. Fourth, there will be 7 rounds of the Kaaba. Start with Tawaf from Hajar al-Aswad, black stone. We point our hand towards it and say Bismillah Allahu Akbar. If you can't see the black stone, then you can look for a green light in one of the corners. It has been put there to specify the direction of the black stone. Fifth, in Tawaf, in the last corner of Tawaf, you recite رَبَّنَا أَقِينِ فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنًا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنًا وَقِينَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Sixth, first 3 rounds are completed by walking fast, men only. It is called Ramal. Then the remaining 4 rounds are completed by walking on a normal pace. Seventh, after completing the 7 rounds of Tawaf, you go behind the station of Ibrahim alayhi salam and pray 2 rak'at. Recite Surah Al-Kafirun in the first rak'at and Surah Al-Ikhlas in the second. After, go to the Zamzam taps and drink Zamzam water. That's the end of Tawaf. At the end of the 7th circuit, do not point towards Hajar al-Aswad or point towards it the 8th time as it's the end of Tawaf. Now that Tawaf is finished, you cover both shoulders with the upper portion of the Ihram sheet, men only. 8th, go to Safa and Marwa to perform the Sa'i. We walk from Safa to Marwa 4 times and 3 times from Marwa to Safa. Starting at Mount Safa, move up the hilltop, face the Kaaba, raise your hands for dua, and recite the following ayah, followed by any supplication.
إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله فمن حج البيت أو اعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما ومن تطوع خيرا فإن الله شاكر عليم.
Then say Allahu Akbar 3 times, or ask Allah for whatever you wish. Now come down from Safa and move towards Marwa whilst reciting this supplication. Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. If you don't remember this supplication, also recite Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar repeatedly and keep moving. You may also praise Allah and ask for His mercy in your own language, or use supplications taken from the daily salah. When you reach two green pillars between which men have to run, but the women walk with their normal pace. Note, in all trips, the men will run between the green pillars, but the women will walk in a normal pace. When on top of Marwa, praise Allah facing the Kaaba and repeat the same supplications that were recited at Safa. One trip is over now. The second trip will be from Marwa to Safa. You continue to do this until you've made 7 trips and you finally end up at Marwa. At the end of the 7th walk, stand facing the Kaaba and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the acceptance of your umrah. Finally, the last step of your journey, shaving or clipping the hair. After sa'i, the walking between the Safa and Marwa, men should get their heads completely shaved or get their hair clipped to the length of the upper third of their finger or a little more. Both shaving and clipping are permissible for men, though shaving is preferable. Women are, however, allowed to have a lock of their hair clipped. They are forbidden to shave their heads. After cutting the hair, Umrah is complete. The restrictions of Ihram are finished. Now wear your everyday clothes and lead a normal life. Be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He provided the opportunity for performing Umrah and be according to the commands of your Creator.
Allahu Akbar. Praise be to Allah. And I want to read in English one of the recitations that was made with reference to Surah 2, verse 158, but it only recited it in Arabic. The recitation that was made was, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. The Safa and the Marwa are truly among the signs of Allah. So whoever makes a pilgrimage to the house or pays a visit to it, there is no blame on him if he goes around them. And whoever does good spontaneously, surely Allah is bountiful and rewarding, all-knowing. Praise be to Allah. Please say Safa, Marwa. To bring us home a bit, briefly, there is this station of Abraham. Please say Maqam al-Ibrahim. So you see that golden area. It looks like a little encasing. Then we have Baytullah or Kaaba. Then we have, you see the protruding black stone here in silver on the corner. It's encased. This is called Al-Hijr Al-Aswad, the black stone. Now, Kaaba, I didn't give you the meaning. It simply means cube. Then you have this white pillar here that is called the pillar of Ismail, or the skirt of Hajar. Please say Hajar. Hajar is the wife of Abraham. Ismail, the son of Abraham. The Kaaba, the house of worship, the house of Allah, the one God that this family built.
Wow.
Let's just stay there a moment. Not only a family, but a family that struggled to be established. Number one, Safa and Marwa. Safa means purity. Marwa means chivalry. Chivalry is a word that maybe we have to clear a little bit, but it means simply the best of etiquettes, the best of morals. So a lot of times chivalry is associated with the military. Some sisters say chivalry is dead, right? So and some associated with the West with the knights, right, who would practice good manners to the heights. And you may have heard of, the knight putting his cape down over the puddle where the woman can walk. So chivalry and purity. Between chivalry and purity, 7 times is where Hajar ran, seeking refuge in Allah for sustenance for her child. We then, after we have made the circles of 7 times, the running 7 times between the hills, and the prayer of 2 cycles there at the station of Abraham, right in this place, in this area, is where Zamzam was founded. So when Hajar was running back and forth 7 times, seeking purity of heart, right? And the utmost chivalry that we see represented in the love of a mother, all right? Now, this wasn't just any mother. Hajar. Please say Hajar.
Hajj.
Please say Hajj. What is Hajj, or who is Hajj named after? A woman. A black woman. Hajar. Hagar. Which in Amharic means civilization. Hagar, or Hajar, is also said to be buried where we said is the skirt of Hajar. Right at that white half semicircle. So you'll find that area is kept clear of a lot of walking. Sometimes it's open, right? But most times you'll find that you'll wonder, why is this mosque so filled and that space is being protected or covered? Now, it is because Hajar, this is her grave site, said to be her grave site, as well as the extension of what the foundation of the Kaaba used to be. This Kaaba is not the same Kaaba that existed 1,400 years ago. This Kaaba has been rebuilt many times over years. It is a sign. It is not a relic, okay? It is a sign. There are relics all around, meaning artifacts and old materials that were from these ancient histories, but they are signs. So Allah is reminding us in Surah 2, verse 158, that Safa and Marwa are a sign of something. And we look at the 7 levels of the heavens, right, that Allah speaks of. The number 7, what does it represent? Perfection. On and on and on, we could open up these signs, and then of course we drink from Zamzam water and then have the head or hair clipped. Okay. And here, as we begin to close these slides, is our minister making tawaf. Is that yours?
إني أسألك الجنة ونعيمها الذي لا يحول ولا يزول أبدا وأسألك وعمل
it is a blessing to have made that journey with our minister.
That's right.
I, on this particular journey, was not able, because of illness, to fight my way in to kiss the black stone. But I kissed our minister on the head.
That's right.
So, and it was a blessing to kiss him and to help him to wrap in his ihram and preparation. That journey, by the grace of Allah, again, is a sign of something. A sign, particularly as we're closing, of a family establishing the worship of one God. And if we look into our prayer, the prayer that Abraham made for his offspring and for his offspring from among them to have a messenger raised, this is the sign in the Kaaba, the sign in the family of Abraham, and in the activities and worship of Hajj or Haga, inshallah. Now, did you hear the sister say, is that yours? That was my flip-flop. Everybody said, yeah, that was my flip-flop. But out of all those people, and if you saw the height, did you see how high and tall it was compared to the height of the average-sized person? Out of all those people, I got my flip-flop back. Somehow, is that yours? Someone picked it up and was passing it over, and I got my little flip-flop back. So it's showing you, I just bring that up to say, is that the character, that's where we started, that's where we're going to end, inshallah, is that we are there to serve each other. When we make our prayer and we are facing the Kaaba, the Qibla, you'll see it as a cube in the center of the sanctuary, but when you arrange yourself in prayer, it's in a circle around the Kaaba. They're not all, because it's the Qibla. So when you're praying, you're no longer having to face east to the Qibla. You now are facing the actual direction in a complete circle. So if you look up or around, you'll see nothing but believers all around, right? And when we're making that prayer, what are we ultimately facing? Brick and stone. But take that brick and stone away and we see nothing but each other. We're facing each other as one body, seeking Allah's purification of the heart from any internal idols, wrongness that we may have committed. And Allah will inshallah bless us for making such a journey, a struggle, to perform a duty that He has given to us, that in it is a sign. So we cannot get caught up on the ritual itself and drown in the ritual, right? But we can't discard the ritual either, because a sign is something that's pointing to another reality that is that reality. It is one and the same if we understand. And we close, inshallah, just pointing to the fact, again, all of this material and detail is now worked out in a complete book, inshallah, available for Savior's Day. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. And this was an overview guide with some, there's a little more than an overview, with details in here that are very important, but we chose the what we felt were the most important parts to highlight. And lastly, we can show this beautiful picture of believers facing the Qibla. Oh, there it is. There we go. So there's the tawaf. Whatever you do, don't try to go the opposite direction. Right.
Stink of roller skate.
And we see how each level, 1, 2, 3, 4 levels, completely filled. separation of man and woman in this area. Everyone is equal. Sisters do carve out their spaces now. Just the sea of people making prostration. Generally, you see sisters wearing black, brothers wearing white. So when you see those sections, that's what's happening. But you'll see a mix of sisters and brothers as well. Non-stop tawaf is happening right now. It is a prayer in itself. And you see all the way outside of the sanctuary up to the hotel walls. Remember I said you don't want to get caught out there? There's people all the way back. Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar. And we close on this point. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan referred to this ritual, meaning that it is the journey of life, the sperm trying to make its way to the egg, to become one with Allah and a total new creation in itself. Allahu Akbar. May Allah grant us all, inshallah, the ability to make this journey. I'm not sure where we are on time yet, but I would be absolutely out of character if I did not play our minister's words, because whatever you've heard from me is from deeper study and only the study of our minister and bringing it back to the believers. And inshallah, if we listen to the words of the minister, we will right now, if you have a pen, just recommend two videos. One is the Principle of Hajj by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. If you don't have this, this was given from the Final Call building right after our minister made Hajj. And another is produced by the Saudi Arabian government called A Day in the Haram. A Day in the Haram. And I'll show a picture of it so we can, inshallah, see. And Haram. Remember Haram? H-A-R-R-A-M. A Day in the Haram.
You said this is a video as well.
This here is a video of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan called The Principle of Hajj.
I'm talking about the second. That's a video.
That's a video as well, yes sir. A Day in the Haram. It's about 80 minutes or so, but it gives you a very detailed walk through the process of how the Kaaba, the sanctuary, the Haram is maintained. There's a library, there's 5,000 people that are consistently cleaning, there's food that is being served, there's areas that are maintained where believers are actually sleeping, so there's so many things that go into the Hajj itself, the distribution of the Zamzam water, and so forth. It's a very, very good up-close view of the Kaaba, the precincts, and what goes into the operation of making this happen. So as a time check, I wanted to check in because here we're going to start this short video from our minister, and then inshallah I'll go into how much time do you think we have to play from this closing?
We have about 20 minutes.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yes.
So inshallah we'll play about 5 or so minutes, 3 to 5 minutes of this. Our dear minister.
Might be the internet connection. You already have it.
I can't hear it.
I can't hear it. Pause it for a minute. Just move on to your next one.
That was it?
That was it. Okay, we'll pull it back. Pause that.
I'm not going to do injustice to our minister with the audio issue that we're having right now. So what I'm going to do is pause this or stop this, and we'll come back, inshallah.
Airdrop that.
And I'll airdrop it to our brother, and we can hear this segment. So you saw the minister first talking about, I don't like crowds, right? And inshallah, he'll go in, we'll see the clip. He goes into detail about his journey and giving significance and meaning around the specific rites himself, and describing some of his experience while there. Okay.
Airdrop that to me. Yes.
Yeah, make sure it's the one with.
You can do it from the laptop. Just you'll see it on your thing.
Okay.
Just send it. Go ahead.
Make sure the audio is proper, though. That's the main. Thank you.
Technology, right?
Yeah, it's been a struggle. All right. So praise be to Allah. Sorry for the little anticlimactic moment. Always the climactic moment is with our minister. But inshallah, we'll make sure that we see this. Okay, praise be to Allah.
Can I see?
Yes, let me turn over now to our dear brother. Please give our brother, student minister Carlos, a round of applause for facilitating this. And this is actually a preview and into what we will have, inshallah, on Savior's Day. On Savior's Day, we plan to have a full plenary session. A full plenary session on the journey to Hajj. So we'll have presentations from the delegation that attended. We pray, inshallah, our minister will be able to also share some words. And we will, for our entire nation, have an expanded representation of this presentation today, and distribute, inshallah, our first edition of the Hajj manual, inshallah. So please welcome our brother back on, student minister Carlos Muhammad.
Come on, y'all can do better than that. Takbir. 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 All praise is due to Allah. Thank you, Brother Imam. And I think that just in, they're going to transfer the video over to me. I'm pretty sure, and I hope, but I know us in our culture, I've been doing this a long time. When we be like, anybody got any questions? Everybody has just become a Hajj expert. No, I'm just joking. But does anybody have any questions for Brother Imam? This is what he's here for. And I, in the past, have always done the unity thing because that's what we work towards. And Imam has always kind of wanted us to have, you know, others that can speak into the situation. But this time around, I really desired that he take the platform given to him by the minister to talk to us and guide us in this aspect, because that's the task that the minister has put on his shoulders. And I know we were well fed, right? And inshallah, going into Savior's Day, we look
As you said, we'll be a fob, fresh off the boat. Inshallah, myself and Brother John Adex will be making Umrah, inshallah, next month.
Takbir.
In the month of October. Takbir. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan granted us permission to make the Umrah, and we're looking forward to such a great journey and taking all of the believers and all of our family with us in our journey, and praying that when Allah successfully brings us back, we will be able to inspire and motivate, as Allah will invite you to come, and we will be of assistance to any of the believers on their journey, as you have been in ours. So alhamdulillah. I just wanted to give Imam a chance to answer your questions. Take this opportunity, really, and don't be afraid that if you don't understand, it's okay. Everything that we got to learn it. Somebody had to teach us, right? So take full advantage of this time to ask your questions that you have. Okay? Anybody? Yes, ma'am. Wa alaikum salam.
I wanted to ask about the passports. When I did research, it said that you have to have your passport at least 6 months before you can travel into Saudi Arabia. Is that true? And if not, is there a way you like to get a rush on it? How does that work?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
Passports. Our sister's asking that there is something said that you need your passport 6 months in advance before taking the journey to Mecca. That's not the case. I'm not sure what that individual's experience was, and I'll give us a very point experience of our brother Talib al-Hikmah, formerly brother Jason Kareem, who is the interim director of Muhammad University in Chicago. His passport was in the process of being made for another trip. He did not know that he was actually going to be invited at that point to attend with the actual delegation. Really at that point, not many people knew at all that we were going. So his passport was in process. When he got the invitation, it was still in process. And he thought, I'm not going to be able to make it. Literally, the next day when he went home, or I'm sorry, that day, when he said, no, I can't make it, he went home and his passport was in his mailbox. Allahu Akbar. Then our brother, because we did not know and he first had to decline, we had to add him to a list to get the visa. Now, the visa itself is different from the passport. That is a process that you have to start earlier, all right? Inshallah, these are the details that we will cover. And with our minister and our nation, please know you're part of a nation. Wow. You're part of a nation. And I'm just going to show this very quickly. This is Brother Sadiq, formerly Brother Melvin.
E6.
In that bag, if you look real close, he had everybody's visas and passports. All right, right there in front of the United Nations building. So it took us approximately 2 weeks for that process. So you should be okay and shouldn't have a problem if you are, but do apply and get your passport as soon as possible. There are some issues that we may have to look at for expungement for those that may or may not have something to clear up on that end, because there has been said there are some restrictions that we have to look into this, but there's really rarely very few hurdles to jump through once you already have your passport. But you don't need your passport 6 months in advance to make the journey. Most likely we're talking about the visa, is that you should try to begin that process as early as possible.
Gotcha. Go ahead. Yes, ma'am.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you so much. This was really, really awesome. I really love it so much. I want to ask you, it's very short, but it's 3 questions very quick. What's the date of the Hajj? I didn't get that.
At this point, there's no specified date. There is a soft date that is being put out of approximately 2 years of preparation. So we're looking at like 2021, 2022, in this time frame. But through our nation, we're going to be going through city by city with these workshops, as well as Savior's Day. And we do not want to firm up a date at this point because of all it takes for the minister's desire to have the chartered planes and so forth. So there's a lot of details to go in, and we likely will have another delegation go back and return, inshallah, to make sure everything is in place. So no specific date yet, but likely in 21 or 22, 2021, 2022.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
also, the other 2 questions. What is the reason for the cutting of the hair, and where does that hair go?
Oh, excellent question. Okay, they take all of the hair, starting with the last, they take all of the hair, they literally do 1 or 2 things with it, bury it with, rubbish, trash, they bury it, or they burn it. And this is, I'm not, there's a lot in your hair. When I say that, I mean it's part of who you are. There's your genetic. So they either trash it or burn it, 1 or the 2. The purpose is once you complete the Hajj or the Umrah itself, and it's considered to be fully accepted, meaning you've done everything by your intent, and you've fulfilled all of the activities, it's representing the rebirth of self. That literally coming from the Hajj or the Umrah, it is like you are returning as a newborn child. This is similarly represented in the Ihram itself. If we look at the janazah, when one is buried or shrouded, it is like the shroud. Some people are actually buried with their shroud from their ihram, meaning their ihram is their shroud. So it's representative of literally dying to your old self, and the clipping of the hair is being reborn.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Last one. The immunizations, did you say we don't have to do it, or what's going on there?
There is a standard, yes ma'am, thank you. There is a standard immunization, but with our connectivity with the Saudi Arabian government and the types of immunizations that are required, we're working through that to make sure that we do not have to take those immunizations ourselves. As the delegation, we did not as well. And while we're on that quick point, it didn't come up yet, but there's something of health concern that needs to be mentioned that I have not mentioned yet. Number 1 is our endurance, our ability to walk. Start walking, get used to walking, keep your heart rate up. It seems like quick things that we're talking about, but if just walking from the haram to your hotel it's a deep stamina. Doing that 3, 4, 5, 6 times a day for prayer and going out to shop and these kinds of things, it's a lot of walking, and there's not taxis or cars anywhere like that because there's so many people. No, well, let me be more specific.
It's not, it can't accommodate millions of people.
There's just so many people that there's taxis and cars, but they can't move about in that area, So what you have and see are these little go-karts, the golf carts, So our minister, he was on the golf cart, We were on golf carts for some of these, but yes, ma'am. So thank you. So endurance, And also, lastly, there's something called MERS. They finally have named this thing. It's called Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. It's one of the reasons I lost my voice during this last journey. MERS is, it's a respiratory syndrome. It's like a really, really bad flu. It's like a really bad flu, and it happens because of so many people that are in the same area at the same time. It's literally just airborne virus, you know, that occurs. So you'll find some people wear the hospital mask, little mask, you know, like when SARS was out back in the day. So you just have a little mask, and I would suggest it because if you'll come back almost always, they call it the Hajj cough. The Haji hack or the Haji cough, the Hajj cough. And it's a very deep flu-like symptoms, and if it's not treated, it can cause long-term respiratory problem. So make sure, I ended up having to take antibiotic to make sure that, you know, I just didn't want to deal with roughing through something and then injuring myself. So this last journey, I ended up taking antibiotic to make sure it was expelled. But MERS, it is a real thing, the Hajj cough or the Haji hack. Yes.
Let's start up front. I'm gonna work my way to the back. Yes, ma'am.
My question,
Wa alaikum salam.
my question is how, well, a little in reference to having gone, what advice do you give to mentally and physically prepare as far as your diet? Would you suggest changing your diet, being as though when you're eating a lot of meats, it can be heavy in the body, so that with traveling, the certain eating habit could affect you more? And how do you prepare for the climate difference? Because I imagine the summer here may be a little bit different as far as there, so maybe taking some adjustment.
Yes. So our sister's two questions were, one is how to prepare for climate change. When you go there, it's very hot, all right? I would say that one thing that, number one, we're Muslim, so we cover, right? But one of the deepest misconceptions is that when you bare your skin is that somehow you're cooler. No. When you see people living over there, that live there and know they're covering the head, so you'll see pictures of Brother Ishmael with the headpiece on of the brothers, right? Myself, the kufi, you know, covering the head, making sure your arms are always covered, wearing light colors that reflect. So you saw mostly people wearing white, that's reflecting the light. And in terms of our dietary, I will say it's difficult for those that are vegetarian once you get there. So you can definitely prepare yourself by eating lighter foods, stick to our way of how to eat, to live. Used to one meal a day, you'll be absolutely fine there. The main thing there to get used to is probably being around a lot of people that want to feed you all day. So that can be a difficult place because you want to be healthy, right, and not overeat and feel your best. But at the same time, culturally, if you refuse food, it is taken as an insult, particularly from your guests. So part of our eating is going to be managed because we don't really want others bothering our food as well. So this is going to be part of the preparatory realities for us to make sure that, you know, those things that are not part of our diet that maybe they do eat, you know, like shrimp or things like that, are not included, and that we can make sure that we have specified times and places that we are eating. So eat light, build up your stamina. You know, I would say get in a steam bath, you know, just get the body used to some heat, and we should almost be doing this really anyway, is working out a bit, you know, but making sure that we also when you're dealing with, are bringing clothing that is fully covering our arms, brothers. You know, when you're there, this is another reality, is that when you're there, it's a good time to actually, you saw how our minister was dressed here. He explains in the principles of Hajj that this is how the brothers dress overseas, and he unpacks that. But while you're there, you can actually purchase, as we did, the thobe, which is another word for robe, the long kind of shirt that goes down, and a kufi, you know, and the sisters the same. So there's plenty of shopping, there's plenty of areas where you can find very affordable clothing that is light and reflective, meaning in color as well. Thank you.
Go ahead,
Thank you
Sister
for your
Cheryl.
question.
Go ahead.
Sister Cheryl?
I know many people bring back souvenirs and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Do they have, like, during the trip, when you have time to shop and pick up old things?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't want to go across the waters there and not have an opportunity to actually bring souvenirs back or something of a gift to your family, for yourself in remembrance of it. I have some photos that I could show. They're not right here yet, but I'll pull them up as we go. But you want to make sure you bring money, some cash. You can transfer your currency once you're there into the Riyal, R-I-Y-A-L, so you can look up the exchange rates for dollar to Riyal. The malls are all in those hotels. Some of the most extravagant and large malls. You can find gold very affordable there. So it's a good time for the brothers to bring home some gold for our wives and children, our daughters, you know what I'm saying? It's a good time to pick nice garments that you would like and see that are attractive from all over the world, because they cater to the Islamic world. So you'll find garments from Pakistan, Indo-Pakistan region, Morocco, Maghreb, different areas, different regions, Yemeni, all different styles of beautiful Islamic wear. And one thing on that point, and I will bring up, it's right here too, praise be to Allah, is that our sister Captain, yeah, that was a little startling. Our sister Captain Naima, while she was present, I don't have the, oh, here. You'll see, I'm going to pull up here a couple of photos of our sister in her garment. I cannot tell you how much respect our sister garnered, how many times as we escorted her throughout, our minister receiving a gift of a Holy Quran from the manufacturing center of the Holy Quran in Medina. There's our sister, Captain Naima. Wherever she went, we literally had to explain the garment. And when I say that those that were looking at it, they were like, where can I get that? They weren't so much looking for their own, like I said, you can get something from Pakistan, Morocco, but when you wear your garment, they're going to want to know where you got that. And they try to locate it, but they can't find what nation to locate that garment to. Cannot find it. But they know, well, who is she? Like, you know, is she like a princess? What? So know that you can find beautiful garments, but also be prepared to represent is really what I'm saying. Be prepared to represent. That's our couple here.
Yeah, in the back. Who else had? All right, go ahead.
I'm sorry for not getting up, but my question is how far is the distance between the Safa and
Mm.
And I know you said the brothers had to run in between the green columns. So is that like a mile or a half mile, and then they had to sprint between those columns?
The
How far on that?
the between Safa and Marwa, the two that I'm gonna actually, I don't know exact, I'm gonna look it up for us now. But the running portion is primarily for the brothers. And the sisters, during that time, what we're going to have is our minister and supreme captain have discussed this, is our sisters will be flanked by the brothers when we're making tawaf and when we're making sa'i between Safa and Marwa. Okay, here's the distance. Because it's roughly about a block and a half or so. No, it's not. 450 meters. 3.2 kilometers. That is 1,480 feet. So it's not that far. Does that say 2 miles?
Yes, about 2.0 miles.
It says 2 miles, but it doesn't feel like 2 miles. So remember I said get ready to walk. You know what? You know what I think this is?
What?
It's 2 miles after the 7. It has to be a total of 2 miles.
2 miles.
Okay, now that I can see, but between one hillock and the next hill, I don't see that being 2 miles. But know that daily you're going to be walking about 5 to 7 miles wherever you're going, you know, in the region. So it is saying that it's approximately 1,480 feet. We know that's not 2 miles, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's between the hills. But the whole cycle is approximately a 2 mile walk. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
The second part of my question was, for those that are disabled in some sort, as far as making the Hajj, if you want to make it as a whole entire family, what do you suggest for them?
Yes. As far as families, when you're traveling with families, and if there's any disability whatsoever, this is why I suggest watching this documentary, A Day in the Haram. Everything is there. Literally, small hospitals are there. Every accommodation, from wheelchairs, accommodations for the blind, everything is accommodated. Almost to where the sanctuary becomes able to sustain people living there physically for a period of time. And that's why I was saying there's certain areas that are flanked off for those that are in what's called itikaf or
Confined to the
yeah,
masjid.
they confine themselves to the masjid retreat. You retreat into the mosque. So there's areas where people are sleeping. And again, they're serving food, you know, 2 times a day, 3 times a day. And it's not full meals, but it's enough for someone who is retreating to the mosque and spending 2, 3, 4 days actually living there. So anyone that has a family that you want to make sure you're together all the time, we're going, and I appreciate that note, because at some points there may be aspects. For instance, I'll say this while I take the note. I've made Hajj once and Umrah twice, praise be to Allah. I made Hajj when I was 16, but I could not, well, let me put it like this. My father wouldn't allow me to engage in the Rami, or the stoning at the Jamrat, because it was very, very, I mean, for lack of a better word, violent. You know, it's just, it's rough. The spirit of it is rough when you're stoning those Jamrat. So in that area, it was just, he's like, no, give me your stones. You know, I'll go stone this for you. And that's totally acceptable. So there's parts of the activities, if you feel like you personally or someone in your family is not able to make this portion of it for whatever reason, you can make it in their stead by just simply saying, I intend to throw these stones or make sa'i or tawaf on behalf of my son, my daughter, my aunt, whoever it may be.
That's his father.
All praises
May Allah
due
be
to
pleased with him.
Sultan. Yeah, he said, no, son, you know. And if you look in historic...
Baby Sultan.
Trying to put the paper in my hand early. Yeah, praise be to Allah. So no, he said, no, you know, I don't want to lose you on this trip. You know, and if you look historically, this is where the stampedes occur. And the way they have made this now, there's less of it happening, but when we first postponed or suspended the call for Hajj, our minister decided not to for two primary reasons at that time. One was that there was a major stampede the year before that killed, man, it was over 200 people.
Collapsed.
Yeah, something collapsed. And there was another storm that killed people there on the Hajj. It was a period of turmoil. But what was found out is that the majority of the people killed in that stampede were Iranian, from Iran. So there wasn't a clarity on whether or not it was accidental or purposeful. And at that time, our minister was also looking at the climate of war between Yemen and Saudi Arabia, something that has never happened historically at all, Saudi Arabia being involved in any conflict like that. So he did mention, he said, I want to go through Iran first. So we ended up, as we know, having delegations go twice to Iran since, or before we actually made the journey to Mecca. And this, to close the point, was to bring together the Sunni and Shia, the disparities between the two communities, to make sure that we are going there representing, that we are not part of this or part of that. We are a new nation. We're not Sunni, we're not Shia, we are Muslim.
That's right.
We're Muslim.
Right. That's right. Hold on. Yes, ma'am.
Wa alaikum salam.
You said about the suspension the first time.
Yes.
You signed up then, or you want us to sign up again, or was that site taken down and put back up?
Oh, thank you for that question. If you signed up the first time, we still have your name in the register. If something has changed, please update it, like your email or anything that may have changed with your information. But we still have the original register for that. So thank you. So our sister asked, do we have to sign up again on the site if we signed up the first time before the trip was suspended? The answer is no, you do not have to do it again, but if you have not done it yet, please do so. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Brothers, any brothers have any questions? Yes, sir. Wa alaikum salam.
Is there a limited amount of gold you can buy there? And if you do a lot of shopping, it'd be wise to send that product back by planes that you bring it back with you?
Excellent question. Excellent question. This is a logistic question, and make sure you bring as much money as you can with you. No. Brother's asking, is there a limit to what you can bring back when you're shopping, whether it's gold? This is in your paperwork when you're re-entering. Usually, your declaration form, they call it. And usually the number is somewhere around $10,000 worth of goods that you've purchased. I would not advise sending anything from there home. It will be very, very expensive to do that. Number one. Number two, particularly when you're speaking about gold and things that are, very valuable, you would want to keep those with you. And making sure, this was the key point too as well, is bringing enough that you also are not only buying gifts and so forth, but a bag, like luggage. That was one of the issues coming home. Is like you receive gifts, you're buying gifts, you went with 2 luggage, and now you got to purchase another one. So make sure that you have in your mind that I have to bring this home with me, whatever it is, and that part of the budget is luggage or suitcase. Yeah. Excellent.
Yes, ma'am.
When it comes to Hajj, if a woman is traveling and she encounters her monthly cycle, is it like canceled for her, or how does that work?
Excellent question.
Very good.
For our sisters, when you're traveling, making Hajj, generally the Hajj is about 10 days, all right? Then Umrah is really a one-day event. If you're adding in Medina, that could be 3 to 7 days, maybe, or 10 days max if you really are trying to extend your stay. I mentioned the time frame because our sister's asking if we have our cycle on that time period, is there something that has to happen? At that point, you are not obligated to, as with prayer, as with fasting, you're not obligated to perform the rites in that time frame. If someone is on their cycle, as we mentioned with having someone make a particular rite on your behalf for the intention, that's what occurs then. So either someone who's traveling with you can make that particular activity in your stead with the intention, or depending on how long we're there, most likely we'll be making Umrah, there'll still be enough time for the waiting period to actually make the activities yourself. Okay, I hope that answers. And that we have also in the packet as well, and Sister Captain Naima will also be giving details for us. Thank you.
All right. Takbir. Takbir. Come on, give it up for our Imam. All praises be to Allah. So, we're just going to prepare. As you can tell, the kitchen is in full effect right now. You might have thought it was rain. I think it's the Muslim fish. But we're going to serve dinner. And of course, for those that have been blessed to travel down from Delaware and Chester, Pennsylvania, we're very grateful to our mighty believers. Let's give them a round of applause. You're at home, so if you want to sit and eat, but if the time is on you, we can package it up for you, but at least put something on your stomachs before you leave. Just real quick, because Imam wanted me to do this, and we're going to close with the clip from the minister. We mentioned the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his journey, and that we're at a 60-year point for him in his journey. And I just wanted to go over a few slides, but I'm going to work backwards. When Imam talked about the real call started in 1977. And this is a shot of Minister Farrakhan in 1977 in Cairo, Egypt. And he's looking out over the city, and as you can look at his face, he looks to be in very deep thought, because he's at a crossroads in terms of what he's gone through with the transition of the nation and the condition of the community at that time under Imam Muhammad as it was transitioning, put the minister in such a state. So he's there and he's kind of thinking, and what happened there is he's looking at Egypt at that time. In Egypt, the culture of Islam was dead, and he kind of saw us back home the same way. And I'm getting this commentary from Brother Akbar. So you like, was you there? But that's what's happening. So this is February of 1977, okay? And this is another shot, and you can really look at the minister's face. I mean, he's really, really thinking about things. And it was in that city during dinner where the minister tells Brother Aziz at that time, or Brother Akbar as we know him, he said, brother, you know, Islam is dead here just like it's dying back home. He said, we're becoming so unkept. He said, we were never like that under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, so unkept. We got to do something about that, brother. So what does that mean? That he's thinking, but he ain't thinking about rebuilding no nation. But Allah's causing him to speak these things. Like, we got to do something about that, brother. And from there, and Akbar told me that he was very heavy-hearted. I mean, he was really, really sad, even in his own personal life. And they went from Cairo to Mecca. So now he's in Mecca now, and he seems a little lighter now, right? He seems to be a little happier. And to take it to what Imam said, it was when they made Umrah that the minister saw how fanatical the pilgrims were, grabbing at the Kaaba, and the guards beating the people back with the sticks. And if you heard him say, he said, look at them, Aziz. They're worshiping the stone.
That's right.
One day I'm coming back here at the head of 10,000. He hadn't even started to rebuild the nation yet. But the circumstances caused him to say it. And if we study the history of the Prophet, peace and prayers be upon him, that was the number of the pilgrims when they re-entered back to Mecca, back home. When they went back home, he went back home as the prophet to cleanse the idols. The prophet had 10,000 with him. And so that's not an accident. He's speaking. So he said when they were on the delegation, we came back home to Mecca. That's our home.
That's right.
It's not theirs, it's our home.
So I'm building it up for us.
Building it up for us. So I just wanted to kind of give that backdrop. But then, and of course, this is the minister on one of those Umrahs. We see Brother Sharif, and you see a young Abdul Malik with hair. That's Imam Abdul Malik. He's a teenager in that picture. And of course, our great brother and friend, Brother Akbar and Brother Talib told us, stand up, brother. How's Brother Akbar doing?
He's doing fine. His voice is much stronger. His health is much stronger. He's still trying to get on the road, but we
keeping him.
Promised him after Savings Day. So, but he wanted me to send you two both the greetings, and inshallah, after Savings Day, he wants to make Los Angeles and Baltimore either first or second first stop that we come to.
All praises to Takbir. Takbir. Thank you, brother. Thank you. But I'm going to go to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. If you look at this picture, of course, he's receiving an award from the Pittsburgh Courier for all of the papers we were selling that had his article in it. That's Minister James Shabazz, his assistant minister, giving him that. And this is in New York City, actually, in 1959. And you see the brother over Malcolm's shoulder is Brother Nathaniel Muhammad. That's one of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's sons. May Allah be pleased with him. And of course, Malcolm X. The purpose of this picture is the map in the background.
That's right.
This was showing the route that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was getting ready to embark upon. You see that? And it's pretty much laying out the tape of where he's going. You see the little plane? Now, I got to be honest with you. I mean, I'm doing this with an iPad. But the Muslims was really sophisticated enough to have had a map for their messenger with the route laid out with the airplane and everything. You got to take that in. Yeah, real talk. So that started in November, and I'm looking for that picture of the delegate. There we go. Now this is right before they leave to go overseas, and you can see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with his sons and his wife, Mother Clara Muhammad. Allah be pleased with them. And of course, next to the Pakistani brother, his name is Basit Naeem. He was a very good friend of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and allowed the messenger to write in his publications. But to the right of Brother Naeem is Herbert Jabbar Muhammad, one of the sons of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who is Imam Sultan's grandfather. Okay, so the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is Imam's great-grandfather, but his grandfather is Herbert Jabbar Muhammad, and the manager for Muhammad Ali, and of course, Brother Sadiq's great-great-grandfather, right? Or great-grandfather, right? Great-great. Yeah, see, it get long, right? Alhamdulillah. Yeah, all praise is due to Allah. This is a younger picture of Basit Naeem, actually. But I wanted to read from one of these publications that Brother Naeem allowed. This was Brother Naeem's magazine, where he featured stories of Muslims in America. But when he met the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, most of the Muslim world in USA covers became, and the features became the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the Nation. And this was one of them, which features the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's granddaughter right there. And this is Sister Zainab Sharif, and Zainab, as we like to say. But in this article, this is what I wanted to get to. But before I read it, remember Imam talked about the minarets? This is the center that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted to build when he came back. A $20 million complex at that time in 1960. And if you saw the full layout, this was the mosque. But it also had a temple on the property as well. Right. But this was the mosque. It had the educational complex, and we'll pull that up at a later point. But I'm going back to the article. It reads here, a few of the Muslim groups in the United States have alleged in letters to a prominent Muslim leader abroad that Mr. Elijah Muhammad's followers aren't taught to perform their daily prayers. He had critics then, like we do now, right? Mr. Muhammad emphatically denies this, saying that the day is nearing when you will see them climbing to the top of minarets, proclaiming the glory of Allah, and flocking to the mosques, as good Muslims do in Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Morocco, and Pakistan. According to Mr. Muhammad, a mosque will be erected for Muslims wherever there is a temple of Islam.
Boom. That's right.
That is the fulfillment of imam and mosque minister. Because if you're going to have a mosque, you have to have an imam. Minister Farrakhan is not off. Y'all all right? The latter being a lecture hall or place of instructions for those seeking the truth of Islam. So I'm bringing that up. This was in 1956 that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote that, proclaiming that we would go into the tops of minarets to make the call to prayer, and that we would have a mosque. This is some of the pictures, actual pictures from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's trip. He's in the Sudan. We have a color photo of that. Some of you have seen this before, right? And he's with that sheikh and imam there to his right. And this is when he was in Mecca and in Jeddah, and he's with those clerics at that time overseas. Y'all okay?
Yes, sir.
And was one more I wanted to show. Oh, this is the brother. You see him in the picture within the Sudan. This is Brother Mustafa Hassan Abdel Majid Al-Hajj. He was the Sudanese merchant and religious leader of the Sudan in Khartoum at that time. And what we're going to do, I'm going to extract the whole article from the Muhammad Speaks, Mr. Muhammad Speaks paper, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad outlines the entire trip, each stop, what it was like when he made the Umrah. But I'm paraphrasing this as I close. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote at the end of that article, he thanked all of the believers that donated donated money so that he and some of his family could make the trip, and that he would pray to Allah that all of his followers will be able to one day make it there.
Good.
But he thanked the believers for allowing him to go ahead with members of his families. And we found out, do you know what the donation was each believer had to give for his trip in 1959? $25. That was a lot of money those days. No, really. We don't think of it now, but the way we act sometimes, we said we need 25, man, I ain't got it. But no, each believer strived to give $25 so that he could make that trip. So that was just some of the historical parts of going into the conversation about the Hajj. But we'll close now with the clip of the minister from 1985. This lecture is also when he named Mother Farrakhan Khadija as well.
That's right.
Let me go back to the beginning.
Ritual of Hajj. I did not fully know what to expect. I don't like crowds. I don't like to be in crowds of people. And if you don't like crowds, then you should never make Hajj, because there were nearly 2 million pilgrims visiting Mecca at the same time. I want you to think about this. People coming to one city from all over the world, people of every hue, of every color, from every race, from every nation, from every tribe, coming in their national garb, speaking their own language. But as they get in the precincts of Mecca, they begin to take off the garments of their own nation, and all people wear the same garment. Whether you are a king, whether you are a pauper, the king can wear finery, the rich man can wear finery. But when it comes to God, your riches mean nothing, your finery means nothing, your position means nothing. As Jesus said it in the Bible, God is no respecter of persons. You make your decisions based on persons being rich or persons being poor, persons being educated, persons being uneducated, persons being cultured, persons being refined, or persons being uncultured and unrefined, persons having noble stature, position, or those of no noble stature. When God makes his decision, he don't care what position you are, what color you are, what circumstance you come out of. When you come to him, you all come on the same footing. So we took off all of our garments. I had on my fine suit and my bow tie. But Allah didn't want to see a fine suit, and he didn't want to see the bow tie. I had on my gold watch. He didn't care for the gold. Take it off and put on what I have ordained for you. Take off all your clothes and then wash, because you're coming in my presence. Think over that. You can't go to Mecca unclean. You got to wash, clean up, and then you have 2 pieces of seamless cloth. One you wrap around your loins, and one you wrap around your body. This is for the men, only leaving your right arm exposed. The sisters must cover totally. They have to go through that same purification process. Then, as we put on our ihram garment, which means that we're in a state now of prohibition, where we cannot use immodest speech, we cannot use obscene language, we cannot enter into any altercation, we are not permitted to quarrel, we cannot have sex with our wives, It's a wonderful thing to know that the disbeliever can't get on the path of the believer unless he changes from disbelief into belief. It's a wonderful thing. Then after we got to Mecca, we performed what is called the Umrah, a visit to the Holy House. I'm going to move very quickly. And there's no way that I could tell you everything. I just have to try to pick out the points that are most salient for this occasion. Beloved brothers and sisters, after we made the circuits around this ancient house called Kaaba, you probably have heard of the black stone of the Muslims. This is the ancient house built by Abraham or rebuilt by Abraham and his son Ishmael. And to walk around that sacred house, sing prayers as you walk around the house, and to know that Abraham stood right there and Ishmael stood right there and made a prayer that has reached us right here in America today. It was quite a feeling to walk around that house and to know that Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the prophet of Islam, stood there in that place and went into that Kaaba and purified it of all idols. And to know that Bilal and Hamza and Khalid and all of the companions of Prophet Muhammad made that same circuit that we were making, and that the great scholars of Islam had made that same circuit that we were making, and their feet have are no longer on earth to walk, but our feet were walking now in the same place of the prophets and the ancients and the worthies. A spirit is infused into you that you begin to see the oneness of God, the oneness of humanity, and the oneness of the prophetic community. And for us to be walking the path of those great and worthy men of God in prayer and in supplication to the divine being, then you begin to feel a new spirit rushing into your being in that sacred house. And as I walked around that house, thinking about Prophet Muhammad, thinking about Abraham and Ishmael, and thinking about my father, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who also journeyed to that house, I felt a rush of Allah's spirit, and the tears ran down my cheek. There were so many thousands just trying to go around, each reciting their prayers, but all of their movements have meaning. This is what I want the world to hear and know and understand, that there is not one thing that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, uttered or did that doesn't have meaning and a direct bearing on what we are working on today as a problem to solve. Everything in religion has meaning, and to do it without understanding what you're doing is to just be involved in a meaningless exercise that is not giving you any satisfaction in your soul. To go to church and to sing songs that make you feel good, but don't know why you're praising God, or don't know why you're taking communion, or don't know what the meaning of what you're doing is to be involved in something that will eventually lose its meaning and make you a hypocrite, saying out of your mouth what is no longer in your heart. It is the same way with prayer. The Holy Quran warns us that when we stand up to pray, we must be mindful of not only the person to whom or the being to whom we're praying, but we must be mindful of what we're saying. Otherwise, prayer is a meaningless exercise. Too many religious people
Takbir. Takbir. And of course, this is called The Journey of Hajj. It's on YouTube if you want to watch the whole thing. And Imam, I showed him something and it kind of connected right here. You know we the historian people, right? What did he say we have to drink from? Zamzam. Here's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in August of 1972. He says, if you read the Quran in the Bible, I'm the only one who Allah will hold responsible for you not getting the truth. Because he gave me the truth. The way he gave it to me is like a flowing spring or like a flowing fountain. The fountain has enough drink in it to give everyone a drink that comes to drink. You don't need a new fountain. Just try drinking up what this fountain has to drink. In the holy city of Mecca, there's a well there. It's the well of Zamzam. The righteous drink of this water, but they shall drink the spiritual truth from Allah, of which they will never be able to get to the end of it. It's so much. Now that this sign here, well of Zamzam, is a sign of the truth which the messenger brings to you, he is the well himself. Elijah Muhammad, 1972. So, all praise is due to Allah. We've had a wonderful afternoon into the evening, and once again, thank you, Brother Imam. Thank you so much. Come on, we got to do our just due. Thank you, really. And so we're not done. Tomorrow, we got our main meeting, and we invite everybody back out and bring somebody with you tomorrow as our beloved Imam will deliver the keynote address. And I've shared with some of the believers, I have to say this, you talk about you learn people's character through travel and living with them, according to the Prophet, right? And in our travels, I've watched him in certain environments, like the Sunday mosque meeting, he'll say, nah, Chief, I'll just share a few words, you teach. But when he comes here, he never makes that an issue. And that lets us know that he feels at home. That's what I've observed when he's with us here in Baltimore. I saw it yesterday at the Jummah. And we have to allow the believers to get that Jummah.
Yes,
now,
sir.
honestly, it was, who was here for Jummah? Man, it was awesome. We're going to, inshallah, we'll have it tomorrow. But he walked right up to the rostrum, and he was good without hesitation. And we speak. So I know what that's like. Like, you go into a new environment, you kind of like, okay, no matter how much you've done it, you have to make adjustments. But it was like, he walked right up. Let's get it done, Chief. So all praises due to Allah. Thank you, Brother Imam, for being with us. We're going to now go and prepare ourselves for the Salatul Isha, which is in. Though the Maghrib has gone by and we don't have to feel we were actually in prayer in the but we'll make up the Maghrib prayer right afterwards, and we'll be finished with the obligatory prayers of the day, and then we'll have our food ready for